like eternal fate. 800 mil in the bank, but the game's still a wreck. Ships clip through planets, what the heck? Buy a JPEG spaceship for $1,000 or $2. It'll be flyable someday, maybe, who knew? Star Citizen, the king of vaporware dreams, raising funds forever, bursting at the seams. Imagine if NASA raised funds this way. We'll get to Mars eventually, someday. But no, it's Star Citizen, the endless tease. More money than God, yet can't fix the freeze. Backers growing old, grandkids asking why. Grandpa, is the game out? No, but soon, don't cry. Chris Roberts laughs from his yacht in the sea. 800 mil, that's just the entry fee. Star Citizen, oh Star Citizen, where's your release date? Over a decade waiting, we're all turning to hate. 800 mil vanished, proof like magic tricks. Game so broken, full of hilarious kicks. Plan for a planet on a digital rock, but try to land there, boom, total shock. Star Citizen, the scam that keeps on giving, unfinished forever, but hey, we're still living.
Oh, Star Citizen. What a disaster. We're going to talk about it today because there's the most Star Citizen update you've ever heard. I mean, it really is amazing how they know exactly what to do to fit with the stereotype. But we'll talk about it. How are you guys? Everybody feeling good? Ooh baby, may I get a link for this AI song? Yes, actually I need to publish it first. Please hold. Publish. Processing. Published. Boom. There. If you feel so inclined and you want that song, there you go. That's the thing. I just felt like what vibe of music, what like genre of music would be like accurate for how a lot of people feel about Star Citizen? Orchestral metal. Why not? Yeah. And after typing in 2 words, I called it a day. I'm basically an artist is what I'm saying. Speaking of art, Stellar Blade's official account posted this just this morning. 1 week. Maybe a horror themed DLC? Maybe. Also, what's expected to take place roughly a week from today? A state of play. Maybe. I'm surprised they would have leaked it like that, but yeah. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very interesting. I'm excited to see what they're working on. A horror Stellar Blade DLC would be very interesting. Jesus Christ! Somebody just posted this. What? Come on. This Halloween, I'll be going as sexy Harambe. Like, I couldn't tell you what's wrong with that, but it feels wrong. You know, it feels not okay, but I don't know why it feels bad. You know, there's some things like that where you're like, I'm pretty sure this isn't okay, but I'm not sure why. I couldn't tell you. Not sure. Don't know. I guess we can do the Squadron 42 thing right up front because it's pretty funny. Did I see the Marvel 1943 gameplay leak? Yes, Lonely, I did. I do have that pulled up, so I guess we could talk about that real quick. New mini segment. So one of the games that we've been waiting to hear more about is Marvel 1943. This is the game coming from Amy Hennig, who's like the OG creator of Uncharted. She is like a legend in the industry, and her reputation precedes her in that regard. But she was booted out of Naughty Dog, it seems, circa 2013, 14, right about the time that Naughty Dog released The Last of Us. And then it seemed like there was some internal disagreement on direction. She left, and Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley took over Uncharted 4. And after that, she went and worked on like a Star Wars game that never saw the light of day, unfortunately. And she's done a couple of other things. But now she's working on Marvel 1943, which is this game that was initially like primarily shown off at the Unreal or State of Unreal, whatever they call it. And it's basically going to be an Unreal Engine 5 graphics showcase game. And it certainly looks it. It's very, very graphically stunning. But it's giving strong, like, Order 1886 vibes. You know, one of those games where it's graphically stunning, artistically beautiful, but it's like 4 hours long and there's not really any gameplay. It's mostly cutscenes. That's the vibe I'm getting from it. But we haven't heard anything about it. It was supposed to come out, I believe, this year. It got delayed till next year. And then, out of nowhere, yesterday, some gameplay leaked. Now, they have started striking all clips of the gameplay, okay? I have seen it. I can describe it to you. But for obvious reasons, I can't pull it up. Even if I hypothetically had a backup. I can't. I can't for obvious reasons. But I can describe what it is to you. Basically, as you can see, it looks like early gameplay footage of 1943 was found and circulated online, showcasing development gameplay that is yet to be officially unveiled. And it's believed that this gameplay probably dropped sometime, or is from a build roughly 2 years ago. Okay? So if you've seen it, keep in mind that allegedly the gameplay is roughly 2 years old. In addition to that, it looks like roughly a dozen screenshots were also shared, exploring destruction elements and other areas of the game, some stealth mechanics, lighting, and visuals. It appears that there will be a neat juxtaposition of sorts, with Black Panther playing the agile, stealthy character, while Captain America is likely to take on the role of the hard-hitting powerhouse. And basically, it looks as though these were clips captured. It gave like strong GTA 6 leak vibes, where like these were probably development captures, like it's being sent between coworkers, and they're like, hey, look at this. Oh, look at this. I figured out this. Oh, when we do this scene, this is what this looks like. Can you send me a video of the progress of this system? Yeah, here it is. It gave me the vibe of that. This doesn't seem to be like somebody hacked in and got a build of the game. It looks like it probably was something that employees were sharing with each other, and somehow that leaked. I don't know how. But in terms of the gameplay, basically what's shown, and I'm going to do this, of course, with the greatest tool known to mankind. What was shown was some combat gameplay where you see Black Panther jumping around a room, beating people up. The most striking thing about it to me, though, was if this is the room, it's not a third person thing where, like, you know, this is the frame and then you have your little guy here in the corner or edge of the screen, and he's fighting and punching bad guys who are over here. It wasn't like that, right? Instead, the camera took fixed positions around the room, kind of like old school Resident Evil games, or like Until Dawn, The Quarry, stuff like that. So as the player character leapt across the room, it would swap to this camera. And then he leaps over here like you're doing what looks like a free flow combat system or something, kind of like the Arkham games, where you leap over here, you start beating up the people over here, and it swaps to maybe this camera with a fixed field of view, right? And then the character moves over here, and so you swap to this camera with this field of view. And so it's very weird. It was very weird. And again, like, you could say it's 2 years old, it's development footage, it may not be the same. True. Very, very true. But I believe if the game is built from the ground up with these fixed camera angles, I don't think that's something that's going to change later in development. I'm not so sure. But it was odd to me. It struck me as odd. It doesn't mean that it'll be bad. It just was not what I thought it would be. It does kind of go along with what other people have said, where it's like, it's such a graphically impressive game that a lot of the time, to do that and to maintain that quality, you have to make some concessions elsewhere, such as removing the freedom of the camera, movement. Like, the game handles that. You don't get control of it, so that they can make sure you're only seeing what they want you to see at any given moment, which helps them increase fidelity. I don't know. But what's shown is a 2-year-old gameplay in the works. It graphically looks pretty good for the time. I'm looking at it on my screen now. It looks graphically good for being 2 years out from launch, allegedly, or even 2.5, 3 years out from launch. But the choice of having fixed camera angles, I thought, was strange, because it does seem very, very jarring. I don't know. It does seem like a strange choice for a game like this. I agree. What they show a lot of like destruction physics. They show a lot of just general physics simulation, with like chairs getting flung around the room, with bottles being knocked off of the bar top, with the characters jumping over things and bumping into each other, and then they bump back into other things, knocking them over. So it does seem to be a very lively space, and that they have a lot of simulation going on, but the lack of freely controllable camera, I thought, was strange. Just feels odd, feels odd. So we'll see. There's honestly not much more to say beyond that, because that's all that leaked. But again, I think with these types of games, you got to go into it with the proper expectations. My expectation from the start, from the moment I saw it, was this is probably a 4-hour game that's graphically impressive and maybe narratively interesting, but probably the gameplay is a bit of a bum. Like, that's just what it is. It looks like a dev cam. Well, they have it scripted to follow the player's movements as they move. So, for example, I don't know how else to describe this than just crudely drawing it. So, for example, at one point in the gameplay, there's like a bar top here, okay? And then there's like some shelving back here. And we'll say that there's some enemies here that are the X's, and the player character is in green. So at one point, the player starts to move over. He like leaps over the bar top and starts attacking these guys. The camera, which I'll have in purple, the camera starts like here. And then it follows and moves with the player as he moves to the left of the room. So they have it scripted to anchor and start here, and then script it to follow in this direction as the player moves to that side of the room. That seems a lot more elaborate than just a dev camera, because typically just development, you're just going to have the camera sitting still. Like, this is something they built to follow the player's movements in an environment. They scripted it to go this way as the player moves to this area of the room. And then once he crosses this threshold, it swaps to a camera maybe right here that has this field of view. So like, it's high effort. It wasn't just like phoned in. It was high effort. It's just an interesting choice. But as always, this is something that is in the work still. It's like 2 years old, allegedly. Could be a week old, but the stuff I saw was suggesting that it was about 2 years old. Things could change, things could shift, and we won't ultimately know until we play it ourselves. But it did leak, and the leaks looked graphically impressive, but the gameplay was like, Interesting. Huh. Weird. So I'm intrigued. I don't know if it got me like excited or anything. It got me intrigued because I'm like, that's very different. We'll see. We'll see. I love I love you, man, but man, you draw like crap, bro. You got me there. You got me there. I never claimed to be no artist. I never claimed to be no artist. I let MS Paint speak through me. Really is what it is. That's most of it. But anyway, yeah. So I wanted to give you guys an update on that to just let you know, because that did happen yesterday. Not a whole lot to go on, but we probably will see more of it. Maybe at the Game Awards, considering it's supposed to release like the end of this year. So they should have a trailer in theory or something. And then maybe release some point early next year. We'll see. But I do think that we should see something of it by the end of the year. That would be my guess. Will it be another unoptimized UE5 game? Place your bets. I think it'll be optimized for 30 frames. And it'll probably look pretty good for 30 frames. And I think it's going to be very cinematic and everything. So I think it'll be this. What you're seeing is what it will be. So it's going to be very cinematic. It's going to be graphically gorgeous. You're going to be like, how on earth is this running in real time? But it is. But the gameplay is going to be pretty minimal. And I mean, it's going to be like Hellblade 2. Exactly the same thing. Graphically stunning, but all of these features and little bells and whistles are kind of built around high resolutions, lower frame rate targets, and less dynamism within the gameplay. And some people love that, okay? There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But it also means that there's going to be a lot of people who probably are turned off by it because they don't want a playable movie, as you say. They want more dynamics, more gameplay. But the market's big, dude. The market's big. People like visual novels where you're basically just reading the whole time. Like, remember years ago, you guys tricked me into playing Doki Doki Literature Club, or I think that's what it's called. I one time called it Donkey Literature Club, and people made fun of me. So I think it's Doki Doki. But you guys tricked me into playing that. You're like, prepare yourself, Luke. It's really scary and unsettling. And then we just like read for like 3 hours, and then like, yeah, it was like a little sad, but I felt lied to. But anyway, like that's a genre of game that you can do. You can play that. Some people love those games. That's great. That's great. And this, I think, is going to be a playable movie with less focus on the gameplay, you know. Oh, a playable game. I said playable game. Playable movie. Some people want a playable movie or a playable novel and stuff like that, but others want more gameplay. I think that this is probably just going to be one of those games. It's a graphical powerhouse. It's meant to showcase the power of the Unreal Engine 5's cinematics and stuff, facial capture, but I don't think it's going to be I'm not expecting a 10 out of 10. Yeah, we made you play it. I forget the context of it, but I feel like I was forced. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe it's me retconning it. But it felt bad. Are you excited / expecting anything next week for Tokyo Game Show? Probably a lot of little updates. Like, I think we'll see more Crimson Desert stuff. I think we'll see Kojima say something about his projects. Where Winds Meet. We probably see something there. Probably some little stuff, but I'm not expecting anything massive. Hopefully we get something massive, but nothing crazy. A rumor about God of War Egypt. Yeah, that rumor comes out every like 6 months or so. I think it's because it just makes the most sense. And initially, before they went with the Norse mythology trilogy, their plan was to do Egypt, and then they kind of pivoted off. But who knows? Maybe if Corey is in chat, he can correct us or correct me if I'm wrong. But I remember in one of the documentaries there were mentions of doing Egypt, and then they pivoted and did the Norse mythology stuff. But I think it's because everybody just like Egypt is such an obvious thing, like it lines up. But that's also part of the problem when it's so obvious, like such an obvious thing to do. Sometimes companies don't want to do it because it's too obvious. Like everybody going back a decade was like, why doesn't Assassin's Creed go to Japan and do the ninja thing? It makes perfect sense. And they put it off because they're like, it's too obvious. And, you know, a decade later, we eventually got it after everyone else had already done it. You know? So, it was in a video asking 20 rapid fire questions. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess maybe it wasn't the documentary. Maybe it was that. Hi, this is Corey's mom. Corey doesn't want to answer that at this point. I don't blame you. Thank you, Corey's mom. Thank you. God forgive you, give the fans what you want. Well, it's also a matter of subverting expectations, you know? When everybody expects one thing, it means they have an idea of what they want. And when people know exactly what they want, it's really hard to satisfy them. Whereas if it's a total surprise, they don't have time to get unrealistic expectations. You can just like do it, you know? Real quick, let me catch up on these. Thank you guys for the super chats. Alex, thank you for the 10. Very generous. Hey, Luke, do you think any future PlayStation consoles would be able to run PS3, PS2, and a PS1 games through backwards compatibility? Why haven't they been able to fix this issue? I mean, I think they undoubtedly could, even just on a simple level, like you just build in an emulator and do it that way. They don't need to be dedicated ports. Obviously, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. Some of those old school, like the PS3 was notoriously difficult to develop for. So that's a component of it. I'm sure it's probably not that easy to get those games working through emulators themselves. But, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. They could probably figure it out if they really wanted to. The problem is just, is it worth the cost and the investment? And with that, I genuinely don't know. Like, there's a lot of people that really like older generation games from PS1, PS2, PS3 era, and will play a lot of them. I'm one of those people. I love a lot of those older games. But is that enough to justify like $25-50 million of investment into something like that? I don't know. And they have done some backwards compatibility stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like they have done some, but it's certainly not on the scale a lot of people would like to. Yeah, PS3 emulation on PC even today is very hit and miss. Yeah, I mean, it just is. The PS3 was a nightmare to develop for, and that's something I don't think we've watched the documentary on stream. Maybe we'll do that one day. But I did find a documentary that broke down why it was such a nightmare to develop for, and it's very interesting. It's a little heavy, though. But it was a nightmare. It's part of the reason that the Xbox 360 did so well, because a lot of developers were like, it is a nightmare to do PS3 stuff, so let's just focus on Xbox. So Xbox versions of games tended to run better. They tended to just be more stable. Like there's all those horror stories. Was it Oblivion? Oblivion running on the PS3 was a dumpster fire. Yeah, it's an old storied thing. Yeah. Dying Like the Beast video. Yes, Jacob is probably editing it as we speak. Yes, I filmed it. Sure did. Let's see. Continuing on. David, thank you for the 5. Are you excited / expecting? Oh, I read that one about Tokyo Game Show. Yeah, nothing big, but updates to stuff we've probably already seen. Connor, and any advice for somebody aspiring to do what you do? Ultimately, O'Connor, just create. Like, I can't even tell you how many people will send me like an email being like, Luke, do you have any advice for becoming a YouTuber or streamer or talking about games and stuff? I'm like, I look up their channel and they posted one thing like a year ago. I'm like, if you want to be a content creator, you have to create content ultimately. Like, and every 6 months, you're going to look back at the stuff you made 6 months ago and cringe and be like, what was I thinking? That looks terrible. But that's how you know you're getting better. And so you just have to create. Ultimately, there's no shortcuts. Like, if there's no advice I can give anybody that like will shorten your journey by 5 years or anything. Like, ultimately, it's about just creating. My chief advice, even to people who are established in content creation, is always make personality driven content, because eventually like the games will dry up. I've seen this where people will have entire channels dedicated to Red Dead 2 or Baldur's Gate or Tears of the Kingdom or Hogwarts Legacy or whatever, and their channel blows up initially because there's a lot of viewership focused on that one game, and then it goes away because even for the biggest games, eventually the hype kind of settles and people play it and move on to the next thing. But then the viewership is gone. So you need your audience to want to hang out with you and watch you. You know, that's the key. Because then you can talk about whatever you want and the audience will be there to support you and be interested in you. So it's, my advice is always don't build your content around a topic or around a game or a franchise. Build it around the one thing you can kind of, that you know you'll always have, which is yourself, your personality, you know? So I'd encourage you to do that, but ultimately just start pumping it out. Just start pumping it out. You know, make videos. It doesn't have to be a crap ton, but just start practicing. Start with a video a week just to get the creative juices flowing. Challenge yourself with that. And understand in 6 months, you'll look back and you'll hate the videos you're making right now, but that's what you do. That's how you grow. You know, that's the key. And don't stop. Don't give up. Because a lot of people give up. If it was easy, everybody would do it. You know, if it was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody would have 1 million subs, but that doesn't happen because a lot of people give up. Like I said, with those guys that do it for, you know, a few weeks and then stop, you know, so you got to just push and force yourself to get better. Don't give up. Miss Mysticles, thank you for the sub with Prime, by the way. Thank you. Lucky Luke, thank you for the sub with Prime as well. Thank you. I have a challenge for you. If you watch the full fight video from a movie I worked in without screaming, I'll give you a 50 sub. That's okay, because I don't want to deal with copyright strike. And you also can just give the money to, I'll give it to a smaller streamer. Like on Twitch, we don't have a ton of viewership, but like give it to somebody else who needs it. Like, I'm okay. I appreciate the super chats and memberships and stuff. It kind of helps people who really want to say something, like say something and all that. But like, I'm good. Go help out a little guy, you know? Go help out somebody who's like growing and building. Let's see. Phlegm Nasty. I always love that name. Just, it's so vivid, you know. Phlegm Nasty. Thank you for 8 months at the show off tier, no less. Thank you. I feel like this boycott of Ghost of Yotei is getting bigger and bigger. It seems like both sides are mad and are not going to buy it. What are your thoughts on this? The boycott thing, I cannot figure out. I don't think anybody knows ultimately if any of those things, like whatever amount of people are saying they're going to boycott Yotei, I guarantee you a lot more people were going to boycott AC Shadows, and that still popped off and did really, really well financially. So I don't put much weight in it. I'm not an investor in Sony. I have no horse in the race as to whether Yotei sells well or not. So ultimately, it's not really my problem. You know, like ultimately, if you want to boycott it, boycott it. Cool. Go team. If you want to play it, okay. Cool. Like all you can do is control your own actions. That's cool. I usually find it cringy when people are trying to force other people to boycott something, like bully them into boycotting it. That's a little cringe, but yeah, you should do whatever you want to do. If you want to boycott it, boycott it. If you want to play it, you know? I don't know why we have to keep talking about it. You know? It's like, ultimately, I'm mainly interested in just playing good games, not like holding games to purity tests and stuff. That interests me a lot less. Also, just so you know, Tencent did respond to the lawsuit against their game Light of Motirum by Sony. they actually did respond. Long before this lawsuit, developers of Horizon Zero Dawn publicly acknowledged that the very same game elements that Sony claims to own exclusively were in fact borrowed from an earlier game. Sony's complaint tellingly ignores these facts. Instead, it tries to transform ubiquitous genre ingredients into proprietary assets by suing over an unreleased project that merely employs the same time-honored tropes embraced by scores of their other games released both before and after Horizon, like Zelda Breath of the Wild, Far Cry Primal, Far Cry New Dawn, Outer Worlds, and many, many more. Sony seeks an impermissible monopoly on genre conventions. So Tencent's approach is to basically say that Sony's being unreasonable and that they're trying to lock down things that are overly generic. The thing is, though, I think everybody knows what you're doing. You know, like, it's the white metal shell on the gigantic robot dinosaurs with the red-haired female protagonist and the bow. Like, everybody knows what you're doing. You know, they weren't suing you because your game was open world. They weren't suing you because you hunt dinosaurs. They weren't suing you because you have, you know, I don't know, tattoos. They were suing you, and they're trying to shut this down because there are very specific elements that are being copied, whether it's the visual and artistic design of the dinosaurs, the way that you've marketed it, the red grass as well, which is like 1-to-1 copied. It's pretty egregious, like, which is why it went viral. Because if this had nothing to do, if this was like the most generic, you know, open world game and Sony's trying to sue them because, like, you have a female protagonist, therefore we can sue you, then everybody would be making fun of Sony and PlayStation, be like, come on, guys. But no, like this, everybody knows what's going on here. Okay. There is no mistake. Everybody knows. So we'll see what happens. It's very interesting that this is the route Timu's Timu. Freudian slip. That was funny. This is the route that Tencent is taking in defending themselves against this lawsuit. And I don't think it's going to work. I mean, I honestly don't know what they do here. Apparently the game is like really far in development. So I don't know if they come to a settlement and then they just have to change it. Like, even if they just changed the white plates of metal on the machines to like yellow, it would visually change it up a lot. So maybe they settle it. That's where I think this is going. I just can't imagine that. I just can't imagine that they get away with it. You know, I think especially because you got to remember a lot of the courts and stuff where these cases are argued. These are like 70, 80-year-old dudes who have never touched a video game controller in their life. They've never heard of Horizon. They're going to look at like the broader evidence and try to determine it kind of from an outsider's perspective. And in this case, I mean, I think any outsider is going to look at this and probably even think that there's screenshots from the same game or like artwork from the same game. So, and of course the lawsuit is not just these two pictures. The lawsuit includes a ton of other very specific claims of things, whether it be the red grass, whether it be individual, like, some of the tribal attire that certain characters are seen wearing, of course, the dinosaur designs, other things, like even down to the foliage and the types of foliage is being brought up in the lawsuit because, again, it's pretty 1-to-1. So we'll see if that works for Tencent. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced at this point, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay. Kachi, thank you for the sub with 6 months or for 6 months over on Twitch. Thank you. Simply said booba indeed. Go play another Polish masterpiece, Dying Light the Beast. Yeah, dude, I played it all last night. It's actually Steam Deck verified and it runs pretty well on Steam Deck. Not great. There's like occasional hitches, but in general it runs really well. On their ROG Ally, it runs really well. But yeah, I played it. We've got a video going up soon. Jacob's probably working on it. So we'll see when that goes up. But yeah, it's good. It's a good time. Is Todd here today? He's always here. In our hearts. With us. With us. Speaking of what's not with us, let me show you this. So, news on it. So at this point, we all know about Star Citizen, right? We've all heard the stories, the memes, the jokes, because they kind of write themselves. Well, to give you a little background on what is so hilariously happening right now. Last year was an event. They do this event every year called CitizenCon. Okay. CitizenCon is a big conference where they come all together and they showcase the latest developments in the game for Star Citizen and for Squadron 42. What you're seeing here is a trailer for Squadron 42, which is their single player narrative game that they plan to sell separate from Star Citizen, the persistent universe. So the persistent universe is like the always online multiplayer thing where you can travel and fly to any planet and do all this crazy stuff. And then Squadron 42 is the cinematic first person shooter, basically, where they've hired like Mark Hamill, Gary Oldman, like a bunch of very notable famous actors and actresses to perform in it. There's Mark Hamill. And they've spent a lot on it. But the goal basically is for this to release, generate a crap ton of money that flows in and can fund the production of the rest of the persistent universe and everything else they need to do in the short term, because they are starting to see revenue that's coming in slow. They're still making a lot of money. They've raised over $800 million at this point, but the rate at which they're bringing that money in has started to slow, which means they either need to find ways to cut costs long term, they need to find other sources of revenue, or both. And that's basically what they're trying to do here. In terms of finding other sources of revenue, it's selling this as a standalone product that can give a little chunk of cash infusion, or hopefully for them, they're hoping for like $1 billion of cash infusion, double the budget basically. And then on the flip side, you could cut costs, but that it doesn't seem to really be happening. They haven't like downsized. As far as I'm aware, there haven't been any notable or significant layoffs or restructurings. What they have done is they shook up a bunch of their senior leadership late last year, I believe it was, specifically people who were in charge of like hitting deadlines and stuff, because they are notoriously bad at hitting deadlines. Obviously, I mean, they started fundraising for this back in, I think, 2012. And it is 2025 and the games still are not out. So basically what happened is, as you can see in this trailer, it has a little splash screen at the end where it flips around and says Valor Rises 2026, announcing the release window of 2026 for the game. You can see this was posted October 19th of 2024 by a secondary channel, but this is about when this dropped. It was late 2024 that they were going to release in 2026. Okay. Everybody's super excited. They're like, oh my God, it's happening. Squadron 42. We're getting it finally 14 years after the initial Kickstarter. It's happening. Okay. Crazy. It's actually going to happen. Do you think it really is? They're not so sure. As Squadron 42 team says, heads down to meet 2026 promise. It won't appear at Star Citizen's CitizenCon Direct event. They are not going to have a trailer. They will not have anything, because they say they're focused on trying to get it out the door. Okay. This is interesting. In a live stream, Cloud Imperium Games CTO Benoit Bolt Bessejoux, I'm just going to call him Benoit, stated publicly that as it was supposedly explained in the paid subscriber newsletter for Squadron 42, there will be no Squadron 42 presence at CitizenCon Direct this year. Now, in their defense, it does take a lot of time, money, and effort to put together a trailer and even like a demo or something for a show. That is true. So doing that means a lot of development labor and time and resources are spent on something that ultimately doesn't affect the final product beyond marketing. So I can understand that. In their defense, sure, you want to focus, I get it. But he goes on, if that means that you're going to hit the date, cool. The reason isn't because of a delay, as Benoit explains, but because the team is heads down attempting to avoid further delays beyond the 2026 date promised last year. Quote, I'm going to enhance. We drew a line in the sand when we said 2026. I don't know if we're going to make it. I just know we're going to do every single thing possible to make it. And part of that is not taking the time for the distraction of CitizenCon. Guys, you literally, you said, this is what blows my mind. It's in the same sentence. We drew a line in the sand when we said 2026. I don't know if we're going to make it. I thought it was a line in the sand. That is like a very common saying of like, this is it. It is the ultimatum. This or that. Black or white. You're hitting it or not. Like you are doing it. Like this literally isn't how words work, but okay. Well, you can just wipe the line out. It literally is like, okay, guys, this is it. This is the line. Actually, this is the line. Do not cross it. Just 1 second. This is the real line. I'm super serious this time. That's what they've been doing for like 14 years. 14 years. And they just keep being like, oh, and a little more time. Little more time. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy. And yet the audience, like, a lot of them are frustrated by it, sure. But I just don't know. Maybe I don't know what to expect. Like, I would expect for the community, if they don't hit 2026, I would hope that they would be like, this is like actually insane. And them to like start calling for resignations. Who was in charge of hitting that date and said they could hit it? Who drew the line in the sand? That person's out. Fire that person. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Because clearly they lied to the community. They drew the line in the sand. They didn't hit it. And they lied all the way along as to whether they were ready for it or not. Like, surely somebody should be held accountable. And they've done some like restructuring a little bit here and there, as we've said, but clearly not enough because they still can't hit deadlines, dude. It's crazy. It's crazy. And listen, I like a lot of what Star Citizen has to offer. I think it's a very I think it's a very impressive package, technologically speaking. If you haven't ever seen the Star Engine demo, this whole thing was basically one gigantic middle finger to Starfield. It was premiered November 22nd of 2023. And basically the entire point of this demo is to show what their engine can do, where they can go from like planet surface, showcasing like a farm and all this. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. And then they're going to start fast forwarding. I'll go a little bit faster. And they're going to show you how quickly they can stream data in and out across a planet's surface. And then they're going to pull out of the atmosphere. This is all running in real time, an actual build that's playable. The camera pulls out and transitions into space. And then they're going to seamlessly transition to another planet or space station, or I forget where they go, through like a little wormhole thing. And then they're going to arrive there and stream all that data in, navigating the 3D space of the solar system. As you can see here, like, this is ridiculously impressive tech. It is, but it's taken 14 years and $800 million to get there. And at the same time, just because the tech is really impressive does not necessarily mean that it's going to be like a fun game. In terms of what they have in the persistent universe right now, it is compelling. There is a lot of really impressive stuff in there. There is fun to be had when it works, because it's pretty busted pretty regularly. But they do have like some very impressive stuff. People who call it just like an outright scam, or they say that it's fake, or vaporware is another term thrown around with it a lot. I don't think those things are fair, because there is something very impressive here. They have been building stuff. Should they have more done at this point? I think so. Should they be done with most of this by this point? Yes. Like, all of that can be true, but it's not like they've just taken the money and run, like, I don't think it's quite on that level. But this is impressive. This is very impressive. And ultimately their goal is to get to the point where they can release Squadron 42, get that big chunk of change, and kind of funnel a lot of those players into this universe and this whole thing where there's also a lot of money to be found. Now, funnily enough, it's a very similar thing to what I think Ubisoft is doing with Skull and Bones and the Black Flag remake, because there's been a lot of like reporting and stuff on how they're doing the Black Flag remake, and they are going to then probably be trying to funnel people from the Black Flag remake into Skull and Bones, which is just Black Flag, but online, where there's more monetization possibilities, let's just say. And so it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they navigate it, because this is all of these projects are about like funneling players from one spot into another spot, and get them from this spot where they only paid $60-$70 for it, and then funnel them into this other spot where we can sell them $500 ships or $100 ships, and then all these cosmetics and blades for your ships that make it work way better, and all of that. My stance with Star Citizen, though, for the last couple of years has just been very clearly, they obviously need to break into the mainstream. They need people like you to get in and like start spending money. Like, that's the key. But the problem is that people like you probably don't want to spend $100 on a ship, $200 on a ship. Like, you probably are not down for that. But that's what the game is built on right now. And so what they've communicated to the hardcore fan base, apparently, I'm told, is that one day they will drop the heavy monetization of ships, and they will not do that anymore, basically. They'll go for a more pro-consumer approach. And that sounds great. I love the idea of that. I don't believe them, though. Like, I just don't. I don't. And especially because right now their entire business is built on those ships being sold for crazy amounts of money. I just don't see how it's possible. And what's funny is, like, you guys, we all jokingly say, like, who on earth is buying these things? On stream just the other day, I saw this. Okay. You guys know Caleb Hammer? You know Caleb Hammer does the financial audits and stuff. He was doing an episode with a guy, and watch what happens in the middle of, just to be clear, the alarm he has set here, the alarm he has set is literally for a drop in Star Citizen, because they're selling waves of ships in certain, like, every 2 hours, basically. So if you want one, you have to buy it before they all sell out in that drop. Watch. Oh, it's muted. Hold on.
No. Right now, he says he wants to do better, ladies and gentlemen. I have to say this because he's not telling me, probably because he's embarrassed. Thank goodness Lindsay is just a master at squeezing individuals for information. But he's literally setting an alarm right now for 11:30 a.m. Central. We're in Central Time Zone right now. He's usually in West Coast. Because there's a new ship available in Star Citizen that is $1,600. What are we doing? I thought we wanted to pay off debt, you
I'm thinking about it. I haven't made up my mind.
You're setting an alarm for it. Your mind is pretty damn close.
Just to see when it comes out.
But if you're setting an alarm...
Yeah. Because there's so much nuance that I can't explain. See if I can get it with store credit.
Planning to interrupt our filming for this.
No, I'm not
This
planning
is in
to.
15 minutes.
I'm not planning on it.
Well, let's see it in 15 minutes, shall we? Because I will be very curious. And if you buy it, I will harm you.
An hour later.
This is what we're dealing
15 minutes later, Caleb's kind of forgotten what they talked about. But 15 minutes later, he's on his phone during the filming to see if he can buy the ship.
with here. Wants the proper speak. This is what we're dealing with.
I was extremely broke at that time. Like, proper poor.
Let's see the ship.
Looks like this wave is already sold out. They're releasing them in small waves every 2 hours. So it'll be done by then. I'll check it again.
So we found the guy that's that's doing that. Listen, there are people who spend a lot of money in Star Citizen who are literally like electricians, and this is their hobby. Like, they just play Star Citizen at night. And honestly, I have no judgment for that. Who am I to judge you if your hobby is Star Citizen and you like spending money on that? You're probably looking at me. If I go and buy like nice golf clubs or something, you're like, loser. You're going to go whack some balls. Real fun. I fly spaceships. Like, it's all hobbies at the end of the day. One person's hobby spending is another person's total waste of money, right? Like, you're an adult. You can spend money how you want. If you got expendable income, good for you. In this case, it's bad because, like, obviously he's on financial audit, seeking financial help, and he's doing this now, but whatever. Where I do think it can get funny, though, is the fact that it is virtual. It is not tangible. They are literal zeros and ones. And the one where I reserve the right to make fun of you across the board is if the ship doesn't exist yet. Like, they sell ships for thousands of dollars that aren't real. Like, they haven't even made it in the game. They basically have concept art, but they haven't built it into the game. And so they get you to buy the promise of a virtual ship that one day you will probably be able to fly in the game. So you're like pre-ordering something that doesn't exist yet. I don't understand that, and I will make fun of you for that. But that's just me. That's just me. I just that can make you a lot of money. It can. Obviously, they've raised over $800 million. But it doesn't, like, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. And for them, what they're hoping for is to get more growth by bringing new players in, which will happen. New players will come in, especially after Squadron 42, if it ever launches. But I think that those players, if they're coming from the more mainstream wing of the industry, they're going to come in and see the pricing on some of this stuff, and they're going to immediately get turned off. Like, if you think that right now the drama around these ships and the monetization is bad, just wait until this goes like mainstream. Because a lot of the mainstream guys, like Asmongold or Penguin Z0, like Charlie, like they're aware of Star Citizen. They've talked about Star Citizen before, but it's not like centerpiece of conversation because it's not really in the mainstream. It's sort of off in its own thing. And so I think once this breaks into the mainstream with Squadron 42, a lot of that will get stirred up again, and they're going to have some answers for it. And I don't think they have any good ones because, again, they say they want to change it. They say they will change it, that they're not going to go really toxic monetization forever. But they've shown no signs of slowing down. If anything, they're picking up speed. And that's not great. Let's see. Are the ships pay to win? This is a common point of frustration in the community. I'm told, because some people will say pay to win, and they're like, no. You can grind up to it through gameplay, so you don't need to pay to win. But if you pay for it, you get it immediately. The other thing is that they do server wipes. Now it's much less frequent than it used to be, but they'll do server wipes where anything you made with in-game currency earned through gameplay, that's wiped and you start from zero. But if you paid for a ship with real money, it's not wiped and you keep it. Of course, like you better keep it. Like, can you imagine if you paid $500 for a ship and it's gone? So it's not pay to win, but it's definitely pay to excel. That's what I've called it. Pay for convenience. Yeah, I could see that. In the case of like organizations, they call them orgs, of like groups of players, spending money collectively definitely does help significantly. So all of this to say, they say that they are working on it. They are taking off BlizzCon, not BlizzCon, Jesus, CitizenCon, and that they are not going to attend it. The team working on Squadron 42 specifically, they're not doing anything for it because they are all hands on deck, focusing on finishing Squadron 42 to get it out next year. But even now, he's saying, I don't know if we're going to make it, which based on their track record makes me think that this is still another 2 years away after this. And part of it is like, as long as there is the cash cow behind you that lets you get away with delaying indefinitely and just doing that, you get feature creep. You never lock anything down because things are constantly changing, and you know that somebody will always be there to bail you out financially. When you run out of money, the parent company that's selling the ships is going to, be able to fund you moving forward. And that can work if what you end up launching is like one of the biggest games of all time. I'm not so sure if this will be. And there's even stories of like phenomenally successful games like BioShock Infinite. BioShock Infinite was very successful, game of the year contender or winner, I forget. Still praised heavily nowadays. Phenomenally great game. But it went through development hell, and it was restarted basically a couple times, and it had all sorts of problems. And as a result, it apparently wasn't as profitable as you would have thought it would be. And they ran into some trouble finding ways to justify another wave of development on it, which is why now it's been 12 years, going on 13 years since a BioShock game. And it looks like another one is going to be coming maybe another 2-3 years from now, because they just reworked the entire team. So all of this to say, I'll believe it when I see it. If this ever launches, I don't know if it will. They're not exactly instilling a lot of confidence, but they've got some major problems they got to sort out, and this is just another one of them. After locking in, drawing a line in the sand in 2024, saying 2026 is the day, a year and a half passes, and you're like, we might need more time. Like, what are we doing? I guess it's been a year, but still, they got to figure it out. Got to figure it out, fam. Got to figure it out. The end. Won't release in our lifetime. Who can say, man? Who can say? Man? Mr. Mo, thank you for the 21 months. Luke, do you think it's worth me playing KCD 2 just for the new DLC? My biggest issue with the game was the end game was kind of meh after the Jewish area. The new DLC fixes a lot of the end game stuff because it gives you something to spend a crap ton of money on, which really, really helps. And so I'd recommend like checking it out, replaying the entire game. Like, it's really only Gutenberg onward that the DLC will have impact. So I don't know, you could give it a few months, but I think if you're going to play the DLC, probably start a new game and go for it. It'll help, because basically like the new Forge also gives you a place to like have different vendors there. You can have, there's a box for you to just drop stuff in to sell it. So you don't need to go to individual vendors to sell stuff anymore. You can just put it all in the box. They have other things, of course, whether it be displays for you to put things that you care about, or, of course, your own smithy for you to upgrade and do all sorts of things. There's all sorts of stuff for you to do. And I think it will greatly streamline your time with the game, but which is why I recommend like a brand new playthrough. But if it's been only a few months since you played it, maybe take a breather and get back to it a little bit later. I don't know. I love the whole entire game before Kutberg. It was just towards the end game that it felt like the game was getting kind of like the pacing was slowing down. Yeah, I think I don't know if this will help with that. But it's definitely a ton of quality of life improvements. A ton. Yeah, and play Brushes with Death. Yeah, Brushes of Death isn't like a crazy DLC. It's basically just more KCD, which is not a bad thing, but it's just basically that. But yeah, you can also play through that while you're going through a new playthrough as well. Yeah, Hebimaro, the I can never pronounce it right. The I can't say it. Yeah, the DLC, I know the one you're talking about, the village upgrade thing. It basically just leads to infinite money pull if you develop it fully. Kind of breaks the game. This is kind of a flip where the goal of this is to just give you something to spend a crap ton of money on while you're upgrading. So you can still exploit the in-game economy and end up with tens of thousands of groschen, but it gives you something to spend that on, which is nice. Hardcore mode, yeah, that might be the play. That might be the play. Tell you what. Okay. Let's do Privislavich. Ooh, I sound native now. Let's talk about this, okay? Sony allegedly is still not doing anything with Bloodborne. It has been claimed. It's been claimed by the one and only Jeff Grubb on his podcast.
Used to be that way. Checked on it relatively recently and kind of continued to hear nothing is happening with Bloodborne, so don't expect that. These other ones, though, yeah, Gran Turismo 7 should be on there at some point soon, right?
Now, Jeff Grubb has had sources in the past. He's been accurate about stuff in the past, so this is not coming out of total left field. But this kind of goes in line with something else I've heard and thought, okay? Like a Bloodborne remake, remaster, PC port, whatever you would hope for. If that were happening, and there was even the smallest rumbling, don't you think we would hear about it? Don't you think that like the moment Jason Schreier heard a whiff of it, he would start blasting it all over Blue Sky? Like it would be such a big story if anybody had any tangible evidence of it. They would blast it everywhere. And it's possible that it is in the works and it's just super hush hush. But as with other things like the New Vegas remake, remaster, typically, like if something is happening, you can connect the dots and figure out, for one, where it's happening, and then kind of infer when it's happening. And you can start to put these pieces together. The problem for like Bloodborne remake, remaster, PC port is that nobody can tell you who's making it or when it's happening or how far along it is, which starts to make you think it probably just isn't happening. My suspicion has been for a very long time, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen for the launch of the PlayStation 6. But initially when I said that, I thought it was probably what Bluepoint was working on. Since then, there have been updates. Bluepoint, they're the team behind, of course, the Demon Souls remake. They're like the natural choice for a remake of Bloodborne, right? Everybody thought that they would be working on this. Turns out they were working on a God of War live service game. Figure that one out. Figure that one out. You have a team world renowned for remaking old Soulsborne games. People loved the last thing they did. And you're going to have to make a God of War live service game? We're like, you're doing gacha pulls for Kratos skins? Like, what are we doing? Well, they canceled that. Whew, dodged a bullet. Now they can work on Bloodborne, right? Nope. They're working on a new live service game, apparently. Who knows what's happening? Okay, who knows what's happening? All of it is just, again, if it were happening, I think we would know who's doing it, or at least there'd be a hole in their schedule. The problem is right now that there just isn't a hole in anybody's schedule that really lines up. Anybody who we thought was working on this, they seem to be busy with other stuff. From Software seems pretty booked up. As you can see, as for what From Software could be doing instead, it's still up to supporting, or it's still supporting Elden Ring Night Rain, the Switch 2 exclusive Dusk Bloods, and is in active development for a 2026 release. However, neither project could be classified as the developer's next big thing. It is true that there is another project behind the veil that they've not revealed yet, separate from the Dusk Bloods, but this would not be a game that Miyazaki is working on. This would be something another one of his producers is doing, and a lot of people think it's probably like a Dark Souls 3 remaster or something. They don't expect it to be anything huge. They expect it to be something a little bit smaller. So it's just like, it doesn't seem like From Software has the capacity to do anything else. There's disputes over the Bloodborne IP and whether Sony is able to do something without their consent. We don't know. But the whole thing is just strange. My takeaway with this and with the New Vegas remake are both that if they were happening and there was even a smidgen of a tinge of a hint of it happening with any sort of credible evidence, people would leak it and talk about it, and nobody is. And because these things take years to happen and years to pan out, we're starting to reach the point where, like, if they started work now, it probably doesn't drop until like 2029, 2028, 2029, you know, and that just doesn't really make sense. So I don't think it's happening. I don't think it's happening. But we can rest assured that we will always have a solid backup alternative, such as, you know, a God of War live service game. We can wait for that. That could be cool. So who knows? I guess we can look forward to that. Oh, don't you just love it when you're like, oh, this is the perfect match made in heaven. This would be amazing for them. And then you pause and you're like, wait a second. They're working on what? The thing we've been waiting for so long is what? Are you kidding me? It's frustrating. It's frustrating as hell. Let's see. Where did I leave off? We have some people in chat. I appreciate your passion. That's great. But we got to be chill and nice, because you got to remember you're also appearing on screen in clips, and if you're appearing on screen in clips, then we have to watch you a little bit more closely. So if we're going to be toxic and we're going to be nasty, then we're going to go and feel like I'm a freaking preschool teacher. We're going to go in timeout. I don't want to do that. Okay. Everybody wants their snack and playtime. And after that, we can go out on the playground. Okay. But we have to behave. It's okay. We're all passionate. That's great. But we got to be chill. Okay. We got to be chill. Okay, I can close that. Okay. Dude, you guys should see Mr. Romeo. He's getting a little more calm. He's like chilling out a little bit, but he's now like, he's big, dude. He's a big dog. Since the last time you guys saw him come down here and pee on the carpet, he's getting big. And he's chilling out enough that I'm hoping what I can do is I can get like a dog bed right there, or maybe like right here, so it's like not in the bright lights. But I'm hoping he can come down with me and just chill while we stream. I think it'd be really, really cool. But we'll see. Yeah, he's a good puppers. He's a good puppers. He's just a puppy, and so He's just a really freaking big puppy. That's the problem, is he's gigantic. And so he just doesn't realize how big he is. So he bumps into stuff and he's clumsy as hell. There was a very cute picture I can show you. Do I have the picture? That's another question. Because there's a very cute picture of Mr. Romeo. I'll go like this. Come on. That's not working. I was going to show you this. Highlighter, text. No, I want the pen. Why doesn't... Okay. Okay. Let's just do this. I have a picture of him watching dog TV. Have you guys heard of dog TV? I was curious if it actually like worked. But basically what it is it's just a bunch of videos of birds, other dogs playing, of just dog stuff, you know. It's very chill, it's very cute. It's very, very cute. And I put it on and it's just like a bunch of birds chirping. And dude, Romeo, who was previously like just zipping around the room, super hyper, couldn't settle at all, it popped up on screen and he immediately settled and focused. I was like, wait, what is happening? What is this? What is this? It was very cute. Very, very cute. Okay, why is this so difficult? I just want to show a picture. I feel like a boomer sometimes where I'm like, look at this thing. Here. I'll go like this. Because I think the person that was in the picture didn't want to be in the picture. So I'll just do this. But okay. Okay, there we go. I'm covering up the person who might not want to be in the picture on stream. But anyway, he was sitting on the couch and look, he did the thing where his butt is on the couch sitting and then his paws go down off the couch. And so he's both sitting and standing and laying down all at the same time. But he was sitting like that, watching the birds and whatever in front of him. It was very, very cute. It was very cute. Yeah, he just did a total sweetie. But after this, like, he got super, super hyper and started jumping and all of that. He also, because he's a hunting dog, he wants to like dig for animals and stuff. And so he thinks the couches must be full of them. You know, must be full of them. So he jumped up and he's like trying to shove his face down into the cracks of the couch. Like, it's so funny. It's so funny. He's a cutie. Yeah, he's a majestic creature. My mom saw this picture and she was like, we had a dog very similar to him growing up when she was a little girl. And she said, our dog used to sit the same way. Used to sit the same exact way. And I don't know what it is about some dogs, but apparently they just find this comfortable. So this is how he sat. It's very cute. Any videos of a howl? I don't think I actually do. I do love his howls though, because when he is trying to like get your attention, he'll just do it. But when hound dogs are doing that, they also like get a little distracted while they're hounding, and they'll start to like move their jaw to play around with it and the sound. So for him, he might be upset that like, I don't know, we put him out to go potty and he's like, I don't want to go potty. And so he'll sit on the stairs of the deck and he'll start howling, just, arr, but then he'll start going, arr, 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 and he starts moving his jaw as he howls. And then he like kind of forgets what he was upset about. So he hops down, he starts like going through the grass and walking around. Arr, arr, arr. Like, it sounds like he's talking to himself. It's very cute. It's very cute. Okay. Okay. Where is it? Okay, we have three things that we can look at. Three options. Okay? Three options. I found a guy. Let me I can do this. Can I do this? There, start a poll. I can do this on YouTube side. Three options. You guys get to pick. The hardcore Elder Scrolls fan reaction. Okay. I found a guy that knows his Elder Scrolls stuff better than anyone I've ever seen. Okay. And somebody replied to our Elder Scrolls video a few days ago and was like, Luke, you need to talk to somebody who really knows these games, because they'll tell you that Bethesda is better equipped than ever to make Elder Scrolls 6. And so I found a guy that knows these games better than anyone I've ever seen. And he has thoughts on Elder Scrolls 6. So that could be cool. No, it's not Juicehead. No, it's not DSP. How dare you? Okay, there's that. What's the GTA 6 detail deep dive. And then another video some of you guys have recommended. Good graphics are ruining games. Okay, I'll put this in there. You guys can vote. Three options: hardcore Elder Scrolls fan react, GTA 6 detail deep dive, and then also the good graphics ruin games. Those are our options. Are you ready? Okay. Hardcore Elder Scroll fan react is tied with good graphics ruin games. Elder Scroll fan react taking a little bit more. Okay, we're getting there. Oh. I vote DSP.
Live with the consequences.
Dude, I saw somebody sent me a link and they were like, Luke, DSP said he wants to collab with people if you just want to talk about games and stuff. I was like, dude, what if I got him on to like talk about the dangers of gambling addiction and stuff? He probably wouldn't even want to do that. Even though he's been self-described as a gambling addict in those mobile games and stuff. I don't think he'd even want to do that. Because then he'd have to talk about gambling on mobile games, which is something he does all the time. So I don't know. It could be funny. It could be very, very funny. Okay, we're pretty close. Hardcore Elder Scroll fan react is at 38%. Good graphics is also at 38%. Oh, now it flipped back. It's going to come down to just a few votes, my friends. Just a few votes. It's very, very close, yeah. Oh, the camera's on. Dude, and I'd be really tempted to like troll him a little bit. Like, I'd be tempted. Just a little. Yeah, just a little. Watch both at the same time. I saw an edit. Like, this is a deep cut if you're not into like theater. But Hamilton, Eliza, or there's that song where she says, and I realize three fundamental truths at the exact same time. And then she starts describing how she realizes this and this and this. And she outlines them. I saw an edit where they're like, she sings, I realize three fundamental truths at the exact same time. And then they play all three of those things at the exact same time and they all overlap. And it's just a cacophony of chaotic nonsense. It was pretty funny. It's pretty good. I appreciated the edit. I thought it was pretty good. Put Subway Surfers at the bottom too. Oh, that could be good. Alex Webb is here as well. Hey man, really appreciate you reacting to my Mind's Eye video. Oh, thank you for making it. It was very good. And I mean, the fact that we can find joy in such an atrocity is really quite beautiful, don't you think? I think it's beautiful that we can come together and enjoy something so horrid. You know? I really think 2023 was like the peak of lolcow games, of games that were just like, they were big talking points, but for the wrong reasons. Like we were all mocking it, making fun of it. And now, you know, this year we've had a lot of really good games. So it's really, really, you know, been a flip. Next year, I'm feeling like we might see a few more surprising, a few surprising things, you know? I think so. Okay, so we are down to Hardcore Elder Scrolls Fan React and Good Graphics Ruin Games. You guys were asking for a follow-up, so the people who voted for GTA can also vote on those two. So let's just do that since it was so close. Two options. Not GTA. Elder Scrolls Fan React or Good Graphics Ruin Games. There you go. This one will be the winner. I should have set a time limit. Damn it. Okay, I'll let it go for like a minute. Okay. Good Graphics Ruin Games is taking it. Love to see it. Kind of hoping you guys would pick that one, which now that I've said, I'm sure means that everybody's going to flip their votes and go the other way, because that's just how it goes. Oh dude, this is hardcore. Look at this. Hold on, this is funny. The next main God of War game will indeed mark the return of Atos. The God of War will travel to Egypt armed with a khopesh, the curved Egyptian sword. Source, Tom Henderson. I did not say this. It's like, no? What? What are you talking about? What do you mean? That's crazy. Notice they tagged the right person, but they just like didn't, I guess, find a source. I don't know, man. People just say stuff. All the time. But are they lying? That's a good question. Maybe. It's all part of the plan. Okay, great graphics. Let's do that. Let's do it. Let's check it out. You guys have recommended this a lot, so we're going to check it out, okay? Okay. New segment. You guys have recommended this video a bajillion times, and I can see why after watching the first like minute of it in preparation for this. It's quite good. From Circle Tunes HD comes How Good Graphics Killed Video Games. I'm intrigued by this because it certainly does feel that since the advent of ray tracing and the pursuit of photorealistic graphics, it certainly feels like there's a certain, I don't know how to put it, maybe soullessness with a lot of games where it's just like the art direction and everything else. It's just about checking boxes in Unreal Engine and just being like, oh yeah, turn on that. Okay, call it good. And quality art direction. And what often happens is like games that are restricted by hardware, a lot of the time the teams have to go and figure out how to even get the game running, right? So like Breath of the Wild, that art style exists because of the hardware limitations. Like the reason why they went with that sort of cell shaded style was because that's an art style that facilitated the scale of what they wanted to do in a piece of hardware that was quite limited in the form of the original Switch. And so I think it's often those limitations that can breed innovation and can breed something really, really fresh and new. Because I think if you just have endless compute effectively, you know, with a 5090 or something, you can just skip over a lot of that. You don't need to find clever or creative ways to present your game. You can just check the boxes, you know? There's not a lot of showmanship in it. So I think that there is an element of this sentiment that certainly is present, and I feel it too. So let's see what he says. Let's see.
You're watching this video most likely from a phone, possibly a computer or a TV, and if you're really freakish, maybe even a smartwatch.
Hey man, you okay? What are you doing here? Everything all right at home?
But regardless of your chosen device, all of them are made up of a combination of red, blue, and green blips, tricking your stupid reptilian brain that what you're seeing is real, three-dimensional, and filled with millions of colors. And since gaming consoles and displays have grown and evolved over time, gaming has tried to keep up, and for decades it did, with enormous graphical leaps that would genuinely, instantly antiquate what came before it. And if you grew up in the 90s like me, you would have seen modern gaming evolve from this to this. And before my childhood, you'd have moved from arcades to in-home gaming to crazy visuals in your pocket. But if you're
Yeah, and this is something that's always, like, it's an inevitability. There's always going to be diminishing marginal returns for any piece of tech. It's just going to happen. Like, as time goes by, back in the 80s, you're here, 5-year period, you get a massive leap in terms of the difference in what you're putting out. Another 5 years goes by, still a big leap, not as huge as the one before, but still very, very big. And then, like, as you go on generation to generation, you eventually get to like the era of the Xbox 360 going to the Xbox One, and there's a real tangible improvement that you can see. You just glance at it, you're like, that is next generation. That is a next gen game. Because the old one, everybody was so low poly, they were all jagged and sharp on every curved surface. There, I can't see jagged surfaces. It looks way better. Texture quality, way better. The resolution is way better. Like, immediately you can see it. Nowadays, the leaps are there. Like, going from no ray tracing to ray tracing is technically a leap, but it's much less of a leap, at least in terms of like immediate, appreciable, tangible difference than what we've seen before. And I think that's part of the reason that like this generation has felt kind of bland, because like we went from games rendering at 1440p checkerboarded up to 4K with the PS4 Pro. Now we upscale them from like 1080p to 1900p, and there's some ray tracing stuff. So there's that, but like, it does not feel like we've really made that big of a leap. Other than load times. I think load times though are one of those things that you get used to really quickly. A lot of us forget how slow load times were in the PS4 era, even with the hard drives physically like spinning to load data. Now you can just like instantaneously pop over. Like, I was recording footage and B-roll for no reason at all of Ghost of Tsushima's director's cut, and dude, the fast travel times, ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. You open the menu, you go over here, you hit triangle to fast travel, it like fades to black, fades back in, and you're there. It's crazy. And that was not something that you could do on old hardware. But that's something you get used to, you know? So it doesn't feel like that big of a leap. You just are like, you're used to it. Whatever. Don't worry about it, you know? It was also very fast on PS4, if I recall, but like, again, PS5, it was like night and day, crazy. Anyway, continuing.
growing up now or just getting into gaming in the last 10 or so years, you would have seen modern games go from this to this. But somehow the prices to make and play these things have gone from this to this. What? We are no longer living in a time of meaningful graphical evolution, and half the time we seem to be going straight fucking backwards with a monstrously higher development cost too. But why when we...
But also, this is the other really stupid, depressing thing, okay? Like, have you guys actually looked at what Roblox looks like? Have you actually looked at it? Dude, the younger generation does not care about graphical fidelity. Like, the youngest generation, they do not care. They just don't. And like, these are the games they're playing. Like, my little sister, she plays Roblox all the time. I'm like, what? Why? Why would you do that? But they just don't care. Like, there is sort of a split because there are younger generation gamers who are getting into PC gaming, and like, you know, the 14, 15, 16-year-olds, they're into it for sure. But there's also a huge subset of the younger generation that have grown up playing Minecraft, grown up playing Roblox, and they don't really care that much about graphical fidelity or like changing art styles because they're playing these like platform games like Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft, where there aren't new releases. It's the same game it's been for years and years and years. So they don't really care about those big leaps forward. And I think that's also part of the reason why companies have felt that they don't need to push for big leaps, because a huge chunk of players don't care.
We look back at two different titles, really from any era, one striving for realism and the other a defined art style, we reliably get the same conclusion. One will soon be replaced by a slightly different looking, equally as expensive to produce product, but style is forever.
What a transition,
Ray
dude.
tracing, I'm sorry, that seemed a little aggressive, but I'm being serious.
Hold on.
Ray tracing,
There
I'm
you
sorry, that seemed a little aggressive, but I'm being serious. We've spent years and millions of dollars trying to get reflections and lighting to look slightly better for a very small number of systems and hardware. And all we got was an unoptimized setting that half the time nukes your frame rate so you can take really pretty screenshots and play the game in an objectively worse manner.
Hey, hi, why don't we put the same time and energy into researching a better optimization strategy so everyone can enjoy every...
And this isn't coming from...
I'm glad you guys voted for this video. I'm glad. I'm having a good time. I think I what was I even gonna say? Yeah, well, it's also, there's some types of environments that ray tracing is more useful in, and it's like more tangible. So like Cyberpunk 2077, perfect dream situation type game for ray tracing. Shiny cars, lots of metal, glass, neon lights. Like, it is literally a setting meant for ray tracing, which is why it was primarily used for it. You know, that's why it became like the NVIDIA advertising game. With this, like environments with trees and rocks, these are all known as diffuse materials. They absorb a good amount of light and they reflect out some in a scattered way, but they're not reflecting things clearly or sharply, except for the water and the puddles, of course. But all of this that you see, you don't really need ray traced reflections or anything for that. You don't need that. So what you could argue is, oh, well, we need ray traced shadows. But I would even argue this is a forest in like a pretty straightforward game from level to level. We could just bake in shadows. We don't need to do this. Like, how do you think The Last of Us Part 2 looked so good without ray tracing? It's because they had very, very talented lighting designers working on the game, and they baked in most of their lighting because they didn't have a dynamic day-night cycle. They didn't need any of that. They knew that they were dealing with something static, and then they actually went and like built it out in a very intentional way, knowing the limitations of the hardware. Nowadays, and it's why I've said that DLSS and other such tools are used as a crutch, I think that all of those considerations can just be hand waved away. Do we need to worry about carefully, designing the lighting of this environment, and then we'll do baked in shadows, we'll do all this stuff? No, we're just going to check the box that says ray tracing, and then we're going to compile the game and then let users change the settings if they need to. And if it runs poorly, they'll just use DLSS. Whatever. And that's like, I really think what comes down to a lot of these games when it comes to performance is it's just like, we'll let them tweak settings and then they can use DLSS or FSR to get playable frame rates. And it's too bad. But Luke, then the game looks more cinematic, and that's the most important thing in gaming after all. Well, it's like what the Digital Foundry guys said, where they were saying, I think it was John mentioned it in one of their podcasts. He said that ray tracing is part of a sort of paradigm shift, where in previous generations, everything was about sort of carefully handcrafting the lighting and all these things. And there were limitations to that. So things weren't fully dynamic. You couldn't have full day-night cycles in that same way with the same quality of lighting, because if you wanted high quality lighting, you largely needed to bake it in and carefully do it. So games that could have benefited from day-night cycles can't do that now. And other things like, a game with no ray tracing turned on set in Night City looks significantly worse than if you do have ray traced lighting within it. And I get that. I get the argument that we are at the first stage of a paradigm shift towards ray tracing. Just like the first few games that were doing 3D were rough and didn't run anywhere near as well as the 2D games that came right before it. But after a few years, we figured it out and it started going better. I'm sure in 5 years we'll look back and it'll just be, you know, onto a new gimmick and it'll be whatever. But as of right now, I'm still frustrated. You know, even if you're like, this is in the pursuit and for sake of progress, I still don't have to like it, you know? Like, I don't have to like it. Basically another case of substituting technology for skilled labor. Yeah, it's just cutting corners because they think that most gamers won't care or notice. And honestly, some might not. Like, honestly, some people might not. They probably can't tell the difference between 1080p and 4K. I'm kind of jealous because if I couldn't tell the difference, I'd be playing every game at like 300 FPS. Can you imagine if you couldn't tell the difference between 1080p and 4K? Your life would be so much easier. But I have this burden to bear. I can see the difference. As a result, I have to crank DLSS if I want it even close to playable.
Take really pretty screenshots and play the game in an objectively worse manner.
Hey, hi, why don't we put the same time and energy into researching a better optimization strategy so everyone can enjoy every...
And this isn't coming from someone that can't run it. I have a top-of-the-line gamer PC, and still the first thing I do when I start a game is turn off motion blur and ray tracing.
Wow,
For
now
real.
it's actually a good game that runs and looks good.
Until they disable the ability to turn off ray tracing. Like, no, it's like core to how we built it. You can't turn it off at all. Sorry. Which does happen. I remember Star Wars Jedi Survivor on console. Even the performance mode required ray tracing because everything was built with it. They did not build the game for any other alternative. So, like, you had to figure it out.
Check this out.
Mario and Unreal Engine 5 out now.
But the argument for or against this for me doesn't only come from a place of aesthetic, because I'm sure with time it'll eventually get better. It also comes from a financial one. The entire newly named AA and higher gaming industry are frantically trying to make their games look as ridiculously next-gen as possible. But newsflash, dipshits, the next gen doesn't fucking exist anymore. We've reached gargantuan levels of diminishing returns here, but we're somehow simultaneously chasing the dragon of progress with 100 times more money than ever before. Development costs have ballooned by tens of millions of dollars, which means the prices of games have ballooned with it. Everyone is frantically spending every resource for 1% improvements, and temp jobs, layoffs, and rotating doors are common in the gaming industry now. But I know I don't need to explain how horrible the current game development landscape is, but maybe you haven't considered some of the reasons as to why it exists. Many companies have fallen in love with the video part more than the game part. See, the AAA gaming industry loves marketing, often more than developing. They love flashy trailers, banner ads, slogans, catchphrases, and numbers on a screen that mean
I love how this whole thing is just Todd. They like marketing the game more than they like making the game. Todd. I've always said Todd, phenomenal salesman. And I'm not down for what some people do where they throw the baby out with the bathwater. They're like, oh, so Todd is a salesman and he says a lot of stupid stuff that gets him in trouble because he overpromises and underdelivers. Does that mean that his whole career has been like a fraud or a fake? No, he is one of the most accomplished video game designers in history. He's made games that have been played by millions and are on some people's favorite games of all time lists. Like, he's great. He also lies sometimes. They can both be true. He can be a very good game designer who also got kind of too big for his britches and now is more corporate than a game designer. I think that's mainly a lot of his recent problems. It's literally the moment that they got the idea for the Creation Club to do paid mods and stuff that he went off the deep end, and like they started doing the live serve thing with Fallout 76 and the mobile games and then everything else. It just became about money, and then I think the game suffered as a result.
absolutely nothing because
Candle. This flavor is Macintosh, Apple. Actually, no, I'll do the official Todd one. This one, Todd, is spiced pumpkin. Appropriate, right? My little spiced pumpkin. Here we go. Somebody asked me, why do you have that that pipe or the pipe lighter or whatever they call it. They're like, why do you have a lighter for like a crack pipe? It's like, this? I use this for candles. I'm way less interesting than you think I am. Yeah, that butane lighter people use for drugs. No, I use it for candles, dude. Rocking and rolling. Continuing.
Because it allows them to pander to their shareholders.
We are the future! They are the stupid...
Oh man, the new AI-powered glunch board with 90 billion terashits of mega slop! You'll be blasting off at 14,000 frames of... What are you playing?
It's a 2D Metroidvania that honestly could probably run on a Sega Saturn.
It's unsustainable from the development to the marketing. Attempting to optimize your futuristic next-gen title for 1,000 different rigs and brands of hardware is a logistical nightmare. And the price of that nightmare is passed on to the consumer in either rising costs or broken games. Accessibility matters, optimization matters. Video games were never supposed to cost hundreds of millions of dollars, but now that they do, we should be striving for more innovative gameplay, ways to connect people and push the boundaries on what makes a video game fun. Oh, but the trailer and the extremely curated gameplay reveal looks so good, right? Look at the reflective puddles!
Oh, fuck. I don't look at the puddles.
Dude, do you remember Puddlegate? That was the whole thing where the initial trailer, as he shows here, go back just a tad. The initial trailer showed all these puddles on the left, and then when people got their hands on the game, there were less puddles, and it started what was called Puddlegate because people were like, oh, they removed puddles because they couldn't get it running as well and everything. It's like, clearly they moved the puddles. Insomniac came out and said, no, it's just time of day differences. I'm like, bro, there's literally different puddles. Like, there's not water here or over there like there is over here. Like, literally you removed puddles, but is it a big deal? No, it's just like, don't piss on my back and tell me it's raining, you know? What are we doing? What are you doing? I thought it was such a stupid thing for people to get upset over. Yeah, there's a range, you know? There's a range. It's why, like, if you're going to pick something to be upset about with a game, I just want people to be a little bit more precise. Like, if you're going to be upset over like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, people are like, yeah, that game failed because of the character designs and because of how they designed Mrs. Frost or Mrs. Freeze. I'm like, no, it was just a terrible game. Like, let's not get it twisted. It was terrible. it was bad across the board. There's a bajillion reasons why it failed. The character designs maybe were one of them, but like not up there, you know? Like, what are we doing? Anyway, continuing.
Oh, fuck. I don't look at the puddles. Do not look at the puddles.
Like video games, you know what else is also expensive to produce? Animation. And I actually like to pay my team and make sure that they have food.
I did not say you could have 2 hot dogs!
This video is sponsored by Crystal of
it.
Atlan and their new crossover with Digimon. What? Crystal of Atlan.
Crystal
is a
Atlan,
brand
wow.
new super sweet combo filled
Yeah,
with-
they I will say I'm hoping his team gets paid well, because this is a little insane. This level of production value, custom animations for something like this, it's pretty impressive. Like, it's pretty crazy. Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Just went live. Machine Dramon, one of the sickest Digimon, is invading Atlan as a full-on raid boss that you can tackle either solo or with a party of 4. You can also snag digivolving pets like Agumon and Gatomon is completely free, as well as a bunch of other free limited-time Digimon rewards. There's also collab mounts, Garurumon and Metal Garurumon, that both have special movement
Garurumon.
boosts.
I don't know any of the Digimon. I have no idea.
Group, well-designed boss battles, competitive PvP,
I'm not
straight up
equipped for
color-coded
this.
visuals and magic technology.
Not equipped for
character
this.
designs. Check out my link below. And thanks again to Crystal of Atlan for sponsoring this one. Go and send him some love for supporting your boy. Back to the video. Bliblio blames, shockingly, actually haven't been impacted by inflation as much as you may think. In the 90s, PS1 games were $50 and Nintendo 64 games were often $60 to $70 fucking dollars. Fun fact, that's actually where the 64 comes from, because it was 64, never mind. Adjusted for inflation, that would be like $100 to nearly $150 $150 a pop for each game.
All I got was goddamn clay fighters.
Wait, hold up, this game rules. But the cost to make and market a game now is like nothing we've ever seen before. Halo 3's budget was around $50 million, and that included a world-class, one-of-a-kind marketing campaign that took the planet by storm. While Halo Infinite's was rumored to have a budget of nearly $500 million, a 1,000% increase. And as much as I truly love many aspects of that
figure
game,
that out.
it released with a fraction of Halo 3's original content, and the marketing wasn't anything near Halo 3's.
So where is the money going?
Well, game dev teams are armies now. Keeping up with modern hardware is beyond difficult. The marketing world is wider and more saturated than ever. Shipping physical games is becoming a detriment, and post-release support is now mandatory. This is why the prices of games are skyrocketing. Subscription-based models that allow companies to pre-plan budgets are getting more popular, and microtransactions and bleed pricing is getting more commonplace. And if we want all of these things to stop, I'm not kidding when I say games need to be smaller, look less good, and developers need to be paid more. Blockbuster franchises used to take a few years to make, if that. Now it takes a damn decade to make a single game because the expectations are so ludicrously high. That's why indie titles, stylized titles, innovative, weird titles are becoming so popular as of late.
Well, and I think that this is only going to grow more exaggerated as time goes by, because what's happening right now is really interesting. The standards for AAA games are rising. So if you're going to charge $70, people expect significantly more than they did even just like 5 years ago. And there's all sorts of stories like this that we looked up where, for example, Mafia 3, which widely everybody knows that game was broken at launch. It was a bit of a disaster, but this was what blew my mind. November 2nd, 2016, Take-Two Interactive announced that the game had shipped 4.5 million units in its first week. And this is a game that everybody agreed was a disaster at launch. But it still sold 4.5 million units in 1 week. Nowadays, you launch a AAA game that's as buggy and broken as that game was, because it was bad, and it's gonna struggle to crack 100K, I bet. Like it's so quick, or gamers are so quick to distribute the information when a game is buggy and busted, that I don't think you can, for one, get away with it anymore. And I think also because players' standards have lifted, people are not willing to put up with as much anymore. So it used to be, yeah, it's buggy, but I love Mafia, so I'm going to put up with it and just get through it. Now, I don't think you can do that. Was that because of the name, though? I'm sure that was a part of it. I'm sure that's a component of it. People love Mafia. They were willing to pay for it regardless. I think that's true of a lot of established IP, for sure. But nonetheless, I don't think it would go over that well if that happened again today, for example. So I think expectations for AAA games have risen, and it's much harder for those games to live up to those expectations and to then perform well. On the flip side, I think people's tolerance of clunk or optimization issues or this or that on the AA scale or indie scale have also, like, their tolerance for it has gone up. So they've become more tolerant of issues. And they're also more willing to support. Like, you shouldn't support a product. Like, if the product is good for you and you like the product and what it offers you, you should buy it. You shouldn't think of it as like supporting. This isn't a charity. This isn't a church. You're not making donations to the altar of Xbox or PlayStation. You should buy the product if you like the product, right? But people are willing to support really high quality indie games and AA games because they like what it stands for, what it represents. And, great examples of things like this are like Expedition 33. I've had numerous people among you in the chat say, I bought Expedition 33. I have no clue when I'll get around to playing it. It's not typically my kind of thing, but I love to support a small team that's doing big things. A lot of people willing to support them, even if they didn't necessarily like the product. And that, I think, is reflective of a broader dissatisfaction with the industry, with the big players in the industry, because they're not just buying the things that they want to buy because they want to buy it. They're also supporting something to send a message to the bigger guys, you know? And that's just a shift. It's like a class shift within the games industry. And how big and like how large scale is that? I don't know. I've heard plenty of you guys say it. So it is anecdotal, but I do think that that's at least a piece of this. And I've seen it, like Expedition 33 doesn't run very well. It doesn't. A shocker, I know. I love that game dearly. Literally have the monolith behind me right there. I love that game. Doesn't run the best. It's an Unreal Engine game and it is kind of blurry. It just is. But I'm willing to tolerate that because it was cheaper. It's from a smaller team. Like, I'm willing to tolerate that. It's $40, so it's okay. Like Geralt says, yeah, I think a lot of people, I just realized Geralt of Rivia. That's awesome. But yeah, I think that is certainly something that's happening. And as a result, a lot of the money is being funneled out of those AAA games. And if somebody sees something like a red flag or a big problem with a AAA game, they're much more likely to not bother buying it. And they'll just go buy an indie game or a AA game instead.
And yes, R&D is worth something. Yes, it's in our best interest to strive for better. And yes, we should always be trying to evolve our art. But can we wait until it's more fucking affordable? Nintendo, I feel, is a perfect example that encompasses all the good and bad here. Check this out. Nintendo launches an extremely affordable console that breaks nearly every record ever, but it runs on leapfrog hardware and a dream. Most of their games look extremely good, even on the weaker hardware, because again, a concrete style is worth far more than high-fidelity realism and graphics. But because of that same lacking hardware, some games run poorly or are forced to make optimization cuts, either in graphics or frame rate. So what does Nintendo do? They work on a second console, this time far more powerful than the last, one that can run modern looking games but maintains the hybrid gimmick. This causes the price to jump up, and even though it's still on the mid-end of modern consoles, it's seen as greedy despite gamers begging for this exact upgrade.
But I don't like the price!
Then why did you ask for it?
Now, games being $70 to $80 is complete bullshit.
It's not the highest we've ever seen by a long shot, but it's also obviously not the cheapest.
I also think this is one thing that's driven me kind of crazy about these comparisons to the 80s and 90s. Yes, it is true, adjusted for inflation, games back then would be like $150 today. That's true, adjusted for inflation. What you didn't necessarily adjust for is the like number of units and how big the industry was. So at that time, there was this many people buying video games. So the price had to be larger, like multiplied by fewer people, to be able to pay the bills. Nowadays, the industry is massive. And so you don't need $150 multiplied across the massive market to be able to pay the bills. And then you see all the other ways that they're also increasing revenues by doing DLC, by doing, season passes, in-game microtransactions, XP boosts, and all that stuff. They also, that's a good point, Caveman, they didn't have digital games. Like digital games also have significantly removed one of the major fees here, because retail fees, distribution fees, and everything else that you tie into that could account for 30% off the top of your gross revenue. You make you sell your game for effectively $100 adjusted for inflation today. Well, $30 of that immediately goes away and goes to Best Buy or Kmart or whoever you're buying it from, Toys R Us. What a throwback that is. Now it's something ridiculous, like 95% of copies are being sold through digital platforms. So they're just taking all the money. So whenever I hear people bring this up, like, I get it, but if we go down one layer lower, it doesn't really hold up. Yes, these were expensive for the time, but they were excited to sell a few thousand copies of a $150 game, or even a few tens of thousands of copies. But like units were nowhere near where we see like Mafia 3, like we just looked at, 4.5 million in a week. Nothing like that occurred back in the day to that scale. So it's just different. It's just different. This was when the industry was in its absolute infancy, and so things were expensive. As time goes on and industries mature, typically prices go down as efficiency is raised. Part of the problem is that efficiency has not raised at all. If anything, it seems to have dropped because it's taking teams longer and longer and longer to put out games that are shorter and seemingly less impressive.
Cheapest, and the new tariffs and trade war doesn't make things easier at all. Why do old Pokemon sprites still ooze charm, but every 3D Pokemon game somehow looks worse than the last? Why are indie games coming out faster than ever, toppling AAA studios and claiming so many awards? How do these smaller gaming experiences, sometimes made by a single individual, garner such massive loving fan bases? Balatro, Vampire Survivors, Slay the Princess, Inscription, Animal Well, Pizza Tower, Blueprints. Because a refined art style will always age better than the skin pores of the month. Because you can tell an emotional story, no matter your poly count, and because bold and defined visuals let your game stand apart and speak for themselves, no matter the budget. Just take a look at Expedition 33, a small team's first project, an outstandingly beautiful title that blends the two design philosophies together, sacrificing neither while making a visually distinct and affordable game. By the way, this is like one of the best games I've played in the recent decade. If it doesn't win Game of the Year, I might actually like lose my mind. And this isn't like nostalgia glaze either. This effect happens time and time again, and not just with modern indie games, the gaming industry as a whole. Look, Last of Us is an incredible game. No argument there. One of my favorites, and obviously a very high fidelity and pretty game, especially for 2013. And by the way, do you want your brain to like fucking melt? Last of Us released a year before Dark Souls 2. Yeah, what? But do we really need to remaster The Last of Us so many times to the point where you can't tell the fucking difference? What the fuck's the point of this? What the hell does this mean? You all are spending millions on something I can't fucking say! Now, none of these arguments mean bunk shit if I can't point you towards a modern game that encompasses all of the attributes I'm seeking in a title. Affordable for the consumer, low development costs, balanced and sustainable work environment, gameplay first framework, kinda indie but kinda not indie, no long blow.
KCD? I could see some people saying that it's long playtime. Like, I could see that. KCD 2, though, I would argue is a game that it was produced at a shockingly low budget. It was put out very, very polished as well, which is very refreshing. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, I could see Baldur's Gate 3, but to be fair, when Baldur's Gate 3 launched, it was buggy as hell. Act 3 specifically was really broken. People kind of forget that because they patched it up. It took people so long to get like to Act 3 in Baldur's Gate 3 that a lot of people didn't see how buggy it was when it launched. Because by the time they got there, it was fixed up and improved, but yeah, I could see Baldur's Gate 3, but, you know, speaking of rose-tinted glasses, it's important to remember how it was. And even, I mean, again, Expedition 33, I love it dearly. It also doesn't run very well. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. But I love it dearly, but it is definitely an Unreal Engine 5 game. Any other ones? I mean, you could look at Tears of the Kingdom is probably a really good example as well. I'm sure there's lots.
Loaded playtime, stylized graphics that will age beautifully, heart, soul, and dare I say it, fun! What the hell? A game's priority being fun? I give you one of the most innovative, impressive, and genuinely fun games ever created, where there unironically wasn't a 5-minute gap at any point where I wasn't smiling ear to ear.
Oh.
I could sum up this title in one word.
Split Fiction. I feel bad I didn't think of that. Oh, Split Fiction is very good. For me personally, it doesn't have the same charm as It Takes Two. I don't think it's worse than It Takes Two, but like It Takes Two, I loved all the little tiny mini games and little bitty things. And so it like that was a game I also just constantly had a smile on my face with. Split Fiction, very, very good as well. But yeah. Anyway, sorry.
It would be hybrexneothéristic, which I made the fuck up because there's no actual fucking word in the English language that can describe how good this game is. From the very first second to the last, this game assaults your senses with a bombardment of creative ideas, only to throw them away 5 minutes later so they can fit in another dozen crazy mechanics into the same section of the same level. It's downright baffling how many fun and interesting gameplay ideas are packed into this 12-hour game and how often they build off of them multiple times. Not only is Split Fiction insanely fun, but it's optimized beautifully, runs like butter, and looks so damn good. I've never...
And I think it's also an Unreal Engine game, I'm pretty sure. It is wildly impressive. Hazelight is massively underrated, even though they are very highly rated. They still should be rated more. But it is very, very good. And it's one of those games, I think the reason why I've kind of spaced it is because me and my wife played it together, and we got through it like in 2 evenings because we just like had a great time with it and just kept going. Like we just blasted through it because it is one of those games where the pacing does not let up. It's just one thing after another, after another, after another. It's just better and better and better and better and better. It's very, very good. And so maybe that's part of it, is that it was here and then gone so quickly because it was also ironically so good. I don't know.
Never seen a studio flex how comfortable and confident they are like this. It seems like every art asset, set piece, landscape, color, style, and effect was lovingly crafted with zero internal friction. Everything is on full display here with unabashed passion and heart. This game is a 10, but it's not just a 10. It's a 10 that also has a buddy pass, so your co-op partner doesn't even need to pick the already affordable game up to play the entire experience. It's a 10 that pursued a timeless, cost-effective, beautiful art style. It's a 10 that prioritized the player over the profits. It's a 10 that proved you can still develop a Game of the Year contender without spending hundreds of millions of dollars. But maybe most importantly, it's a 10 that I know I can replay in 20 years and it will still be as good as I remember it.
Aww. That was very sweet. That was very good. Glaze, yeah, I mean, some things deserve some glaze. I'll give you that. I also think Expedition 33 is a game you can play in 20 years and it'll still be amazing. Same with KCD 2. They're just very, very good. So, yeah, but that is fair. That is fair. And how ironic and weird is it that in the year of our Lord Todd Howard, 2025, we are talking about EA as a publisher, like putting out one of the top games of the year, in this case, Split Fiction. It's absolutely crazy because they're publishing this. So it's absolutely crazy. I don't think anybody would have expected that. I don't think EA would have expected that, but props to them. Props to them. It's really cool to see them make a turnaround and still support this. And I mean, they could have also shut down BioWare by now. They haven't. They're giving them the chance to do Mass Effect, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's very good. It's very good. Great video from, again, Circle Tunes HD, 3.5 million subs. Get over there. Give them a sub yourself. Fantastic video. I'm very glad you guys recommended it to me. It's very, very good, and they did a very good job with it. Overall, I agree with the sentiment. I feel like there's a chase to be photorealistic, to have all the gadgets and tick all the boxes, but that's not ultimately what gamers are looking for. Maybe 5 years ago, if you had the best ray tracing, that could be a selling point. But I also think that nowadays, if your game is just really polished, that is a much better selling point than pretty much anything else. If people see that you have a game that looks pretty good, maybe not the best, but pretty good, and it runs really well, that for a lot of people is a selling point now. Like the narrative has shifted from just about fidelity now to performance. And so I think you're seeing like Ubisoft react to it, where they're delaying everything they have by 3 to 6 months to delay and polish it up and make it run better. And I think you're seeing that for a lot of other studios too, where they're going to take their time and wait to put it out until it's absolutely ready. And I think that's good for the industry. I think so. Randy Pitchford disagrees. Why did he tweet something again? Oh, but very good video. Very good video. Okay. Yeah, dude. The whole Randy Pitchford stuff is so ridiculous. It's like, bro, if he didn't say anything. Sure. If he didn't say anything, seriously, it would not be an issue. Like, well, it would be an issue, but it would be nowhere near as big of an issue as it is right now. He has single-handedly made the entire discourse around Borderlands the performance when he could have just kept his mouth shut, and I think a lot of people would still just be talking about how good the game is. But anyway, how do I feel about Silent Hill F on Steam Deck? It's showing playable there before launch. That's really good. Everything we've heard is that it is very, very well optimized, and it runs really well. So I'm hopeful. I think it sounds good based on what I've heard. Professor Sprinkles, thank you just for the 5. That's very, very generous. Thank you. Where do I feel like I just saw one? Greetings from Croatia. Greetings. Let me greet you with some bad news. Are you ready? Wrong button. News I made. Breaking news. Breaking news as of the last few minutes. Just a few minutes ago, this broke, guys. You're here in the moment for breaking news. Are you ready? Despite revenue growth, Microsoft is once again raising console prices. Okay. They're raising the Xbox Series S up by $20. The Series X is going up $50, and the 2 terabyte version is going up $70. So now this 2 terabyte version is $800. The Series X is going up to $650, and the Series X Digital is up to $600. And then the Series S baseline model is now $400, and the 1 terabyte variant is $450. Of course, when they first launched in 2020, they were $500 for the Series X. So now it's gone up by $150. $150. And of course, the Series S was $300. So now they've gone up even more. In the last 5 years, the prices have gone up by 30 and 33% respectively. The Galaxy Edition of the Series X launched at $600 in October of 24, and it's gone up by $200 or 33% in less than a year. I think, they're blaming, of course, challenging situations and economic factors, and that they made careful consideration with all of this. They're saying all this. I think what they've realized is just one very simple fact, okay? There's not a lot of people buying the Xbox Series consoles, right? Not a lot of people buying them. But the people that are buying them, I think they've determined are Xbox fans and are committed to the platform and will buy it regardless of where the price lands. I don't know how else to read this. I think what this is probably just a hope that they can sell a bunch of units when the GTA 6 game finally launches in May, and that people will buy their console to play that game. Maybe they're going to announce some sort of special bundle or something with Rockstar. I don't know. But they're giving me the vibe that this price hike right now, literally just a few months after the last one, is probably in preparation for that. I don't know what else you could say, because they just rose prices again. Raising the price by 33% in a year is pretty ridiculous. And I just don't see it. Tariffs, I mean, tariffs obviously have an impact on many products and markets. Absolutely. Mathematically, it does. But it doesn't have a 33% in a year increase effect when a lot of these consoles are already in like the States. A lot of these consoles are already sitting on store shelves. It's not like this is for, the next batch of manufacturing. This is today for the stuff that's on the shelves today. And a lot of the markets and the places where these are assembled, like Vietnam, China, there's trade deals that have been negotiated that are significantly less than 33%. So this to me seems more like just taking advantage of the current, I'd say, international markets and temperatures and everything, and they're just taking the opportunity to raise prices. And honestly, this is the other piece. Maybe it's cynical of me to think this way, but GTA 6 comes out. A lot of people who have not upgraded to this generation are going to get into the generation for the first time. A lot of them, if they've not upgraded yet, are probably more casual players. If somebody is choosing to upgrade to the next generation for the first time and they have kept no real tabs on where the market is and where the industry is, I could see it being a situation where they walk into the store, and if they're budget minded, they're now going to look at the Series S for $450 sitting next to a $550 PlayStation 5, and they're going to go, I'm going to save a little bit of money. I'm going to buy that one. And on the flip side, if they're going in and they want the premium experience, they're going to look at the PS5 Pro, but then they also see that there's an Xbox that's $800, and they may falsely assume that therefore this is the superior console capable of more and all of that. Because it's more expensive. It must be mo better, you know? I don't know. Vietnam still has high tariffs, bro. Yeah, absolutely. Like there are, as I said, tariffs are certainly at play here. They aren't at play 33% in a year. You know, like that's where I just came out October 24 for $600, and in less than a year they've raised the price by $200, 33%. Like tariffs are a component. It's definitely not all of that 200. A good chunk of that 200 is them taking the opportunity to spike the price, you know. So anyway, this is crazy. It's wild. It is also just generally funny that they're struggling to sell consoles and they are choosing to raise the price of them so significantly. It shows that they're clearly not too worried about the price point. They don't think that that's the reason people aren't buying it. And that makes me conclude that whatever buyers they're anticipating, they don't think those buyers are that heavily affected by price. So if you're going to buy a Series X, you're going to buy a Series X, whether it's 600 or 800 or 500 or 650, like you're buying it anyways. So it's an interesting strategy. We'll see it. We'll see how this goes, fanboys. Yeah, fanboys, or it's just, again, like I said, the casual gamer coming in and thinking that because it's more expensive, therefore it's higher quality. That might be a component of it as well, which I think is a false assumption or a false, I think it's fallacious. Just because something's more expensive doesn't mean it's therefore better, but I do think that that could be a reason why they're doing this. So anyway, there you go. Oh, Xbox. Phil, what are we doing? I also, maybe the other piece of this, like Michael brings up, Series X is now up to 650. PS5 is up to 550. This could mean that the next gen is primed to start at 700. I will say, if they now go and launch the next gen at 700, it won't feel like that big of a spike because the Series X is currently, after this, being sold for $650. So, wow, generation to generation, it only went up $50, when in reality it went up $200, but it feels better, right? It feels better because they walked you up the price ladder slowly. Still think it's stupid, but I think that might be a component of it too. Yeah. They boiled us slowly. Yep. For sure. It's crazy. Isn't it wild that you could buy an Xbox and just trade them and take advantage of the arbitrage? Order a bunch of overstock Xbox Series X's, flip them for $650 a pop if you can get it, or $620 for the discount. That's assuming you can find a buyer, for one, but if you can, then you'll be set. Anyway. Well, fam, I think we'll call it there. Shorter stream today, but also not as much to go through. But we should have a video up on Dying Light the Beast, so we should get that up for you relatively soon on the probably main channel, maybe live channel. I haven't decided yet. And we'll be rock and rolling. We'll be back on Monday with more stuff, and next week should be particularly interesting. I have a feeling that there will be lots to talk about. Matthew Space, thank you for the 10. A Series X with disk drive for $650 is obnoxious, especially when a used PS5 is $350 and a mid-tier PC is $1,200. We just built a mid-tier PC for my buddy for barely twice what the Xbox costs the F. Yeah, I mean, I agree. The pricing is getting to the point where it's like, don't want to be the PC Master Race guy, but it's really getting hard to think that consoles make sense. But a lot of people, they've always been a console player and they want to stick to it, so they're not going to bother shaking it up. But I would encourage anybody who's looking at those crazy prices, consider a PC for real. Consider it. It'll make your life so much better. Anyway, big question from this: does the Switch 2 stay $450 before December, or does it leap to $500? I mean, I guess it goes to 500 before December. I think it's going to 500. Yeah, before Christmas. I think so. Okay. Anyway, much love, everybody. Katie Cat, also thank you for the sub, or re-upping your sub. That looks like Loxy initially gave you. Thanks at Loxy for my sub gift. That's wonderful. Thank you guys. Thank you. Much love. I'll see you Monday. Hugs and kisses. Bye bye. I pressed the wrong button. Bye bye.